Good evening. It's 7 o'clock and welcome to the June 6th, 2023 Board of Selectmen's regular meeting at 7 o'clock here in person and virtual at the town hall. At this time, I am called to order. I'd ask everyone to please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and
to
to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Your timing is perfect.
Really is.
Glad to have you. We now have a full board tonight. And welcome to those that are online joining us. At this time, I'm going to ask the board's permission. I'm sorry, we'll go right to public comment. Does anyone like to speak? Please come forward and speak into the microphone and say your name and address. So our board clerk can clearly hear and pick it up on the microphone. You're more than welcome to sit if you need a chair.
My name is Jim Lurch, Brookfield Road, Bolton. I'm before the board to talk about a new town hall, preferably at the old elementary school. It's the same soapbox I've been on before. I think it's a good one. I think it's got good cause. And I think it's been neglected and put aside for too long. I think it's time that the town of Bolton stood up and addressed it. And I want to do more work on it. I haven't been busy lately, but I want to talk to the town administrator some more, get some more facts about requirements of a new town hall, size, the rooms, people, all that kind of stuff. And I want to work on that over the next month. And that's the big thing is I think we've got to adjust our priorities. We can't just be specializing in one area. I think that the whole town, including this town hall, needs some love and attention, if you will. And now I think it's been neglected far too long. I know there's been attempts to get things going, but they haven't been fruitful. And now we're playing storage facilities or rooms down at the old elementary school. And I think it's an opportune time to begin anew with an effort to try to build a new town hall. And I think down the old elementary school is a perfect place to do it. It's got a site, you're going to be taking down the old building, and I think building a nice new town hall the way you want it would be perfect. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your offer of volunteerism. Mr. Stearns, please come forward.
Barry Stearns from Cook Drive in Bolton. I came here for one reason tonight was to talk about the Veterans Commission, talk about the state property tax exemptions that is trying to increase for veterans. That's been put off. So I'll just go on with the normal thing and say we managed to stop school buses going out Knott's Road onto Route 6 and 44 several years ago. We now stop the town employees from going out there in their vehicles. And now it's time to get the state in here to readjust that whole intersection. Several years ago, they had a plan for no money. The state's got a lot of money now. And I think, I'm sure you're doing it, but I would like you to really push that on the DOT and say, what's going to happen with this? Is it even still in their sight? Or are they just, it's a non-conforming intersection according to the state DOT. So they ought to be fixing it. That's all I got to say, and now I'm going home.
Thank you.
See you later.
With public comment, we do not address the issues that are brought up, as you know, perhaps from the last meeting, but we take very seriously your comments and the best we can to address them at another meeting and put it on as an agenda item. Is there anything you would like to add? Would you like to come on up? Come on up.
Amy Freeman, Dairy Drive. That gentleman, I agree with him with his statement, especially for our youth and the lack of experience with traffic and safety. So going forward, it would be great to see change.
Thank you, Jamie. Anybody else? Bill?
Bill Grady, 282 Hebron Road. We have Freemans and the Rady's are here tonight to talk about the stop signs down Webster Lane. There would be other people here, but unfortunately, who couldn't come tonight because they had prior commitments. So we know their sentiments, and so when we get into the issue, I think we're representing their views as well.
Thank you, sir.
Carol Rady, 282 Beaver Road. I wasn't here when this group came forward. One of the things I did before that was I sat in a window for 2 hours and watched traffic go through those stop signs. And that was a literal statement. Very few people stopped. And I'd say a handful. The people who did stop often were commercial drivers, you know, whether it was the UPS, Amazon, or whatever, they tended to stop. And I think that's probably because they get concerned about their reputations and their liabilities. People going south never stop if they're turning on Webster Lane. I mean, they don't even slow down. They do a normal, what they've done for years. It's just go. And they could even see something coming and still go. The reason there's so much noise is that there are people that might even slow down, take their foot off the gas. And the minute they're past that stop sign, they floorboard it to get back to their regular speed, whether it's 35, 45, and it's higher than that. And it is a lot noisier because of that. It's not a smooth noise. Our daughter just came home, they're moving here, and she just made a comment. She said, "Oh, it's noisy." And it is. It's noisy. So it's just a matter of watching that. And I couldn't figure out what was being accomplished by having the stop signs, to be absolutely honest. If it was to slow them down, that lasts about 10 feet. You know, if it's to cut the noise, that's gone. And it's not changing anything on Webster. That was my observation that 2 hours.
Thank you.
About 100 cars.
We're just about to close public comment. Would anybody else like to say anything? Thank you. At this time, because we have people interested in the issue on the agenda for 6B is to discuss and possibly act on the removal of the stop sign at Hebron and Webster intersection. May I ask if there is consensus on the board that we move this up on the agenda to this point in the agenda? Is there any objection?
Nope.
Thank you. So we will do that. 6B. Jim, would you like to make a comment?
I did talk with both of our resident troopers and they concur that it does not appear to be having our desired effect, which was to slow traffic down on Hebron Road. And as such, they would have no issues, no objections with the stop sign being removed.
Having heard from the neighbors, having heard from the nearby residents and yes, and having heard from the resident state troopers, I would ask the board if there are any other comments that you would like to make. Michael?
Yes, I paid fairly close attention to this when we first voted on it. It was a while ago. It encompassed Loomis School and Webster Lane all in one shot. And the Webster Lane was especially memorable to me because it was pushed by the people who lived on Castle Rock. And the idea was not to slow traffic down. It was to allow them to get out onto Hebron Road and make a safe left-hand or right-hand turn. It was never brought up that it was to slow traffic down. It was to allow a group of citizens who brought this forward to the town to access Hebron Road. Does this do it? I don't know. Has it changed things for them? I don't know. I haven't heard from any of them. I don't see any of them here to complain about changing it back. But I think if we're going to do that, we might want to just, re-examine the other two intersections that have been there. I don't think we've had a big change in accidents at either one of the other two intersections as well. Did they have the desired effect? I don't think so. I don't think anybody goes any slower on Hebron Road now that we have 3 stop signs than they did when there were no stop signs. I don't think there are any more accidents. I don't know as it's had any effect other than to wear out brakes coming down the hill from Pease Farm and trying to get the stop sign. I do notice that in the wintertime, if there's snow on the road, you're more than likely to skid right through the stop sign because it's very difficult stopping at the foot of the hill. That could be a problem that we create where somebody coming down the hill tries to slam on the brakes and can't stop, and somebody crossing over thinks that people are going to stop and could create an accident that way. And I would think the town would have some liability in that because we made the change. So I think the thing to do is to look at all of these. If we want to act on one now, I don't have a problem with that, but I think we should re-examine the other two as well to see if they had any desired effect that we were looking for. And like I said, Webster Lane was not to slow traffic down. I remember the discussion very clearly, and it was brought by people who live down in that area wanting to access Hebron Road. And it's kind of a difficult S-turn down there. And we started by trimming the trees back. If you notice from the stop sign, turn right onto Hebron Road from Webster, we went through there and cleared a bunch of trees out to make a better sight line before we ever did anything with a stop sign, because that was the idea. The sight line was the problem. People couldn't get out without cars coming screeching around the corner at them. So, like I said, I don't know if it's having the desired effect that we had, that we wanted. It wasn't to slow traffic. That was not the desired effect. The desired effect was access to Hebron Road from people coming out of Webster Lane.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
I kind of partially disagree with Mike on that, but you're correct in the initial, when we initially considered that the set of that's 3 stop signs down by Webster Lane, that as opposed to the other ones that were put there for a different circumstances. And when you just listening to your comments and comments from the troopers, if the idea, going back to the original idea of making a safer exit from Webster Lane onto Hebron Road, that's the idea. Well, if you're a driver from Webster Road and you want to turn onto, let's say, Hebron Road, either way, and you're anticipating the other vehicle is going to stop because of the stop sign, and they're blown through the stop signs, that's more dangerous than not having a stop sign. If you know there's no stop sign, you're going to take the time, you're going to look, then make your move. The town did improve that intersection by having some clearing done, so the visibility has improved. So right now, those stop signs, the 2 on Hebron Road, I think have not helped, but have actually made the situation more complex and a bit more dangerous. So my feeling is those should go. The other ones, those are the 2 intersections that are the one on School and the other one on what's the other one?
Loomis.
No, Loomis. All the times go through a lot today. People stop there. That's one where you have a visibility of those stop signs for a significant distance and warnings, and that's those intersections are one we've had some horrible accidents. Mike, you've been there, most of them,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the reasons were just that, and that was the attempt of putting those 4 signs there to eliminate that type of accident happening. So far, so good. Seems to have worked. So, when all things are considered, I don't think the signs over on Hebron Road by Webster Lane are having the desired effect. In fact, they're probably having a negative effect. My opinion is take them down.
Thank you.
Pam, could I ask?
But I'd like to go around the board
Okay.
first.
Yep. No problem.
Adam?
I don't have a strong feeling about it. I did drive that area a few times in between the last time the folks came. I didn't see a huge problem with the signs being there, but I understand their point, so I'm not objecting to it.
Thank you.
I do think the other signs should say that the Loomis and the,
They're not up for what action tonight, but thank you for your thought. Mr. DePietro,
Oh, boy. 70-some years ago, when I was getting my license,
was that a few years ago?
70 or 65 or something, I'm old, you know? It was the difference between local stop signs and Connecticut State stop. I don't know if there's still a difference. I'm very sympathetic to those people who are asking us to take it down. I am, but personally, I don't like the message that it sends. We're saying that having a stop sign, we're not going to enforce it. So, what does that mean? That if somebody else wants to object to having a stop sign like in front of the town hall, they go through it? It's okay. I don't like the precedent that we might be setting inadvertently. My wife gives me a lot of grief. Final come to a complete halt at stop signs.
Good job, Dorothy.
You know what? To me, there's a difference between state mandated and local. So if it behooves us to not have the local stop sign on Eden Road, I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Bob.
Mhm.
I'd like to go around again, Michael. Just for those people that are here, Mike Aramita is a first responder with the fire department and deputy fire chief. Michael?
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that we take the ones down at Loomis and school. I was simply recommending that we might want to look into seeing if they were having the effects that we wanted. I do agree with Bob DePietro on the precedent that it sets when we take down a stop sign that was put up because people aren't stopping for it. We have resident state troopers, and if they park their little cruiser down there, maybe it would have the desired effect. And if they did it at odd times, it might even have more of an effect. The stop sign is there. We put it for a reason. We thought it over, and as yet, I don't see a reason to change it because the desired effect was not slowing traffic. It was to improve the exiting from Webster Lane. And, I hadn't been to an accident at Webster Lane prior to that being put up, and I haven't been to one since. But I don't think that people not stopping for the stop sign is a reason to take it down, as Bob said. I think it sets a bad precedent, and we'll just start running through all the stop signs, and eventually we won't have any, if that's the precedent we want to set.
Thank you. We have board protocol that we do not interact at this point in the agenda after having a public comment. And we have an action item before us, so we don't interact at this time, but thank you for raising your hand. At this time, I will ask, is there a motion before us?
Yeah, I'll move that we remove those two, the ones on the intersection of Webster Lane and Hebron Road, the two stop signs being the ones on Hebron Road.
Excuse me, please.
Just two stop signs, the ones on Hebron Road and the one on, both of them on Hebron Road.
And
the one controlling Webster Lane.
And so the discussion before us is a motion, and for clarification, that would be north and south. Is that correct?
Correct. It's not the one on Webster Lane.
And at this point, is there a second before us?
For the sake of discussion.
Mr. Teller seconds it for the sake of discussion. At this time, I'd like to ask, is there any further discussion from the board? We have a motion before us. Mr. DePietro.
I would only vote in favor of this if we get a commitment to notify all the people on Webster Lane about the change.
Is there any discussion on that matter? Mike Aramita?
Yeah, I think, we have a group before us now that wants it taken down. A group came before the town that wanted it put up. I'm sure that if we take it down, the same group will show up again asking us to put it up again. I still side with Bob and it's a bad precedent. We have a stop sign, people aren't stopping. Trooper's job to stop them from doing that. We have everything in place to take care of that, and we should use what we have and not change something like this.
I have thought on that. We do have 101 roads in the town, and the trooper is not only responsible for our roads, but they are also responsible for the state highways, which are very, very time consuming, as well as all manner of safety issues, public safety as well, besides road safety. And they are also shared amongst other towns when there is a lack of resident state troopers in the other towns. So they are spread extremely, extremely thin.
I think they could put a couple of minutes in
Michael?
down there.
Michael,
Sorry,
please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I would say that the chair is leaning in favor of removal, but with the thought that we should reach out to not only the Webster Lane people, but the Castle Rock people and give them notification before it is taken down. So I'll go around one more time. Mr. Moore,
I would accept that as an addenda because it was
an amendment?
an amendment, because originally that's the reason why we put those up.
Mr. Teller, would you accept that as a friendly amendment to the motion?
Sure.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
But what is the amendment? Is it that we're going to send something to all the people on Webster Lane and Castle Rock that notifies them that
We're
the-
doing this.
that the-
Excuse me.
Madam,
is that what you're saying? Is that what Bob means? Okay.
Yes.
and,
So what
and
happens if they all write in and say, no, we don't want it down? Does that mean it still comes?
Well,
down?
yes.
Crowd of people here.
Well, my theory, no,
About-
that's not my thing. My thing, if the question is to me, but my thought is this.
Describe the motion again. I believe it's asking for you to describe the motion again.
Oh, my motion is to remove the sign on the south and north side of Hebron Road at the intersection of Webster Lane. And the amendment, because I'm
A safety change.
going to screw this up. Let me just think this out a second. Here's where I want to go with it, and we can construct it in a moment.
Why are you thinking? Can I ask the town administrator something?
Sure.
If that's okay with you, Madam Chair.
Keller?
What did you think about it? I heard what the troopers thought about it.
It's not an area of town I get to very often, so I really didn't have strong feelings about it. I will say that if we're leaning toward, if we're concerned about alienating one group of citizens in favor of another group of citizens, maybe the answer is not to take action tonight, but to put a notice out there to those individuals that we think may be affected by it and give them an opportunity to come back and get both groups back before the board to have an open discussion about the issue.
I was kind of inclined to do that too. I'd hate to have people feeling they didn't come because they didn't know about it, because they thought it was already taken care of, because they got a stop sign that they asked for. I don't think I was on the board when these signs
No, you-
were put out.
no, you
I
weren't.
guess I didn't have a.
So, excuse me, please. Thank you for understanding. Mr. Moore? Would you like to
My
continue your thought?
Yeah, well, my thought was, my reasoning would be, what you're right, what you're saying. We don't want one group alienating the other. But it would be, I think, proper to explain to the folks on Castle Rock and whatever, is that what we've created there is a worse situation than when they first happened. I think it's important that everyone understand that what's being done is to improve the situation and not make it worse, not just for these folks, but for everyone that uses that intersection. And with that in mind, I think we probably should not take action to another meeting so we can let those people know and have that discussion because
At this
we
time,
don't know. Okay,
at
excuse
this
me.
time, would you like to withdraw your?
Yeah, I'll
motion?
withdraw my motion
And
and
then
I
second.
still have another comment left in my mouth if I'm.
I'm sorry. Please answer it.
I withdraw my second.
Okay, and because one of the things we don't want to create is having a group of neighbors against another group. That doesn't solve an issue because this is an issue that I think can be solved that's beneficial to both and by eliminating those signs. But I think everybody has to be a part of the conversation. So everybody understands that this is a danger that's there and this is how we solve it.
So at this time, I would entertain a motion to table the item at this time, and we will revisit it if there is consensus with the board.
So-
Thank you. And a second?
Sure.
And a second? Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say
Discussion?
aye. Michael?
Discussion? Yes, I'd like to request that the first selectman instruct the troopers to spend some time down there and actually enforce that road sign. I drive through there at least once a day, and I have yet to have a problem there. But I would like, if people are not stopping there, we've got a group of citizens that are concerned about it, get the trooper down there. You know, I know we've got a whole bunch of town roads they got to look after and everything else. But if there's a danger there, we're remiss if we don't tell them to go down and do it. And, you know, I'm requesting that you formally instruct the troopers to go down there and enforce that.
We actually have a motion before us. It's not debatable. To table
I'm
the
not
item.
debate if there's a
understand.
motion, I have an obligation and a right to comment. Once the motion is made and seconded, I'm making comments on the motion.
According to Robert's Rules of Order, it's not debatable on the item of tabling an item.
Okay,
But at this time, then, Ms. Linda, would you like a question before us, ma'am?
Yeah, can you go back and let me know who made the motion and who seconded it?
Adam Teller made it, motion. And Bob Mora seconded.
Table.
And also, at some point, can you get me a list of who is in the audience?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
At this point, I will bring the question before us. Those members, I got Bob DePietro. Okay, very good. Of the members, all in favor of tabling the motion at this time, please say aye. Aye, that passes unanimously. It's a five vote. At this time, we will go back. I will entertain one last round of discussion to make sure we are all on the same page. Is there anything else anybody would like to add? Thank you. Very good. I'd like to thank everybody in the audience. We don't have an exchange after the public comment when there are items. Yes, please. But you're certainly welcome to call. You're certainly welcome to present an email. You can call the Selectmen's office, and it's the first Tuesday of the month.
But next year, next month, it'll be.
It's the second Tuesday.
It'll be
Second
July.
Tuesday of-
July 11th.
4th of July, 4th. Is the 4th, yeah, it's the Tuesday. So it'll be,
I believe it's July 11th.
yes, ma'am.
And you're welcome to send me emails. I'll disseminate those to the.
We all.
More quality of life concerns for us than safety. It's,
I would just say, because I lived there since 1971. There's nothing new. I can tell you.
I'm sorry, the item has been tabled at this time, so the discussion, I know it's a frustrating moment in time for you, because I know we'll have you come back, and you're certainly more than welcome to give me a personal call as well. Thank you very much.
You know everybody.
So we have Bill and Carol Rady. We had Linda. We had Barry Stearns before us. We had Jim Lorsch, and we have the Freemans. Bill and Jamie, thank you. And Rodney Fournier is before us. And you can see who's joined us online, Amanda Gordon. And Poet Laureate Bessie Rena. Does that help, Linda? Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your patience. Does that help, Linda? Okay, we'll move on then. Going back to the agenda before us. We have minutes A, B, and C. Yes, sir. A, B, and C. May 2nd, May 16th, and June 1st. I will entertain any corrections at this time. We'll start with May 2nd. Was there anything in the May 2nd meeting minutes that should be changed that anyone caught? Bob DePietro, you look like you saw something on May 2nd. Not hearing any amendments or changes, then I will move on then to May 16th. Are there any changes or corrections to May 16th, the special AP meeting minutes? Hearing none. June 1st, is there any changes to the special AP meeting minutes? Bob DePietro is our grammar king. Is there anything you caught? Are you muted? I'm sorry, Bob, are you muted? Okay, take yourself off. Thank you.
Mhm.
We can hear
I
you
think
now.
on page 5, I think that's the previous month. On page 5, third paragraph down, it says Adam moved the board of selectmen authorized the town administrator to issue a dialogue. I don't think he meant a dialogue. A dialogue means to me back and forth.
Yeah, I don't think the word dialogue is correct, actually. Yeah, I saw it too. I didn't.
Is there a change that the board would like to make to the minutes? Adam, because it was in your words, is it?
Remember what it was. I thought it was a directive.
Yeah,
Directive. I think it was directive.
yes.
Sounds like dialogue.
Would the board, would I have a consensus with the board to change the words from dialogue to directive?
Yes,
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Thank you. Anything else, Robert?
no,
Very good. Hey, thank you very much. Then I will, Bob DePietro, I would love you to make a motion that we approve the minutes A, B, and C before us.
I move that we approve the minutes A, B, and C.
Thank you. And a second? Mr. Teller seconds. Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Thank you. Michael, you and I on?
I'm abstaining.
So we have 4 yeses and Mr. Aramita is an abstention.
Your board clerk has her hand up again.
Ms. Linda?
This is just a technicality. I've done minutes for a lot of boards, and normally they do the minutes individually, unless you have a consent agenda on your agenda, which you don't. So 'Cause I don't know, is Mr. Aramita abstaining from all the minutes? Is he abstaining from just one of the three?
If we were voting on them individually, I would be voting yes on the first and abstaining on the other two, which I was unable to attend.
So at this time, we have had a vote. We have had a motion, we have had a seconded, and we've had a vote. Linda, I apologize. I think you are making a very good point that I will be cognitive of in the future. And Michael, I apologize for bringing it on as a consent item, A, B, and C, trying to move the agenda along. And I'll
No
be
problem.
in the future, Linda. Thank you.
I mean, your board at some point can put on their agenda to allow a consent agenda and do these things and, together. But
I was doing, thank you. I was doing it as without referencing the word consent.
Okay.
Thank you much. Appreciate it. So we're going to move on then to the number 4, the resignations. Before us, we have 3 resignations. One for Diane Dana from the library. Is there a comment anyone would like to make?
Yeah, she has been there.
But Mr. Moore?
She has worked there for, I'm not gonna say forever, but for
Careful.
quite a long time. And she has really put herself there, done a great job. And I'd like to just thank her for her service to the community and to the library. I'm sure she's gonna be missed, but she deserves a break.
Sorry to miss it. Sorry to lose it.
Mr. Kelly says, in case you didn't catch that, Linda, he was a little soft on it, but he says he's sorry to lose her.
Mhm.
Mr. Aramita is nodding. Mr.
Yes, very, very much so. She's been there since my kids were going to the library.
And we have very young children, don't we, Michael?
Yes, very young.
My children also. I'd like to also say a very deep thanks for all of her efforts on behalf of the town and working for very diligently with our and performing many tasks, services, and going above and beyond and doing some of the programming as well for our library. So I'd accept a motion of regret for the resignation of Diane Dana.
Also move.
Seconded.
Do we have an effective date?
17th, isn't it?
17.
On the paper in your packet, June 17th, 2023 will be the effective date for her, I'm sorry, not resignation, but her retirement.
Yes.
So we have a motion before us. If there's no further comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. We have Ray Soma, who is resigning from the Bolton Senior Citizens Commission.
Well, is that a resignation or just a
It's a decline on reappointment.
Decline to be reappointed.
doesn't his appointment just end?
It ends, right.
Correct.
Thank you very
It's an
much
acknowledgement
for that
for the
catch.
board.
Could I have some responses to his not being reappointed? Bob Moore?
You know, Ray's been active in the community for decades, many decades in very other aspects. And due to health reasons, he's simply not able to continue on working for the senior citizens. So that's his reason.
Mr. Aramita?
Yes, Ray and his wife were some of the first people I met when I came to town, and it was a very welcoming thing to meet them and get to know them. And Ray has done a lot for the community over the years, and the fire department and everything else he's done. He's going to be sorely missed.
Thank you. I would concur with that. Any further comments? He's held so many positions in town, and we've been blessed to have him as a volunteer.
Mhm.
Thank you. And so we'll move on then, because it requires no action, to Jean Loftman, who is also does not wish to be reappointed at this time for the Conservation Commission. Are there comments?
Well, I'd like to thank her for her time on there as well. And anyone who's willing to volunteer for these things, we appreciate their effort. And Jean, thank you for your time.
I've known Jean for a very long time, because I had her son in school many years ago, and she's been very active. And recently I got to see her again when she and Leslie Alexander did a soil testing at the library for any resident who brought in soil samples. I mean, a real gift to the town. So thank you also for her volunteerism. Going on to the appointments. At this time, we have a reappointment of John Morianis to the Fire Commission.
I'll move the reappointment. John's done a great job, and I'm sure he'll continue to do so.
Second,
A second. Thank you, Mr. Aramita. And would you like to make a comment, Mr. Aramita?
oh, yes, he would be sorely missed if we lost him as the chairman of the Fire Commission. John has been active in the fire department for, God, I don't know how many years now, but it goes back to the 1960 fire trucks. So he's been a long time with the fire department, and it would be a shame to have him leave. I would hate to see that kind of history lost.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? I'd just like to thank him for his service to our town and all of his efforts, and particularly in the role as chairman. At this time, I would.
Motion's been made. You ready for a vote?
Thank you.
Yep.
Second.
Thank you for keeping me on track. If there are no further comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. Moving on to the reappointment of Arlene Piano as the Heritage Farm Commission, and she also serves as chair. Do I have a motion to accept the reappointment?
I move.
Thank you, Mr. DePietro. Would you like to second it? Mr. DePietro seconds, thank you. And a comment? Mr. DePietro, would you like to comment on her?
I think she's very, very dedicated to this project, whole thing. She's really out there working hard to do the right thing for the town, for all of us. I'm very, very pleased that she is working on it.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else? I'd like to say, having worked with her on numerous issues with the farm over many years, she's been a very, very dedicated member and now and as chairman, and we look forward to all the work that she's put in to for the encampment that the Bolton 300+3 encampment will be held at the farm later this year. And we wish her well. She has a wedding coming up in the very near future of a child. So I would ask for a motion.
I'll move the reappointment.
There was.
Motion's been made. Second.
Yeah.
We got a vote.
I'll tell you,
We all have one of those.
well, the smoke is giving me one of those headaches that I can't seem to shake. Thank you. So if there's no further comment, I would ask, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the reappointment of Beth Harney, another Heritage Farm Commission member. Who has been very
Also move.
Second,
Bob moves. Mike Aramita seconds. And comments, please?
Again, she's put great amount of effort and time with the Heritage Farm. We appreciate her work, and I'm happy that she's willing to continue working.
She has put a lot of passion into it, and she's been very active as far as grants and other items. So we've been very, very rewarded by having her on the board. Any further discussion? Hearing none, and we have a motion before us. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
I got one right. Now we'll move on to Paula Lynn, Heritage Farm Commission reappointment.
Motion to approve.
I'll move the smoke's getting to me. I'll move the reappointment of Paula Lynn to the Heritage Farm.
Bob Moore moves, and I need a second.
Second,
Mike Aramita seconds. Do I have any comments from the board? Well, I would like to say that Paula stepped up, and we are very pleased that she's come forward. At this time, because we have a motion before us, I would say again a thank you to her. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
I
Aye, and that passes unanimously. we have a reappointment of Alan Bicknell on the Conservation Commission. Could I have a motion, please?
Yeah, also move.
And I need a second, please.
Second.
Adam Teller seconds. And any comments from the board?
Mm,
Well, we're pleased that he was willing to step up and be a full-time member again and have a reappointment. So and a thank you to him from the board chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, Kim Welch, it's time for a reappointment for her, and she has accepted the request to be the Lake Commissioner once again. Could I have a motion?
I'll
Please?
move that we reappoint her. She has done a yeoman's job, incredible job. She's a true steward of that lake. And I couldn't think of a better person for it.
And I have a second, please.
Second.
Adam seconds. And thank you, Michael, for the third. I worked with Kim for many years over issues at the lake, and I would concur wholeheartedly that she has been a true asset for the lake community and for the town as a whole, taking her position very seriously. Hearing no other comments, could I ask for a roll call vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, it passes unanimously. Thank you. At this time, I would ask for a motion to accept John Toomey as municipal historian for a reappointment. Adam
Second.
Teller moves and Mr. DePietro seconds. Comments, please?
If John doesn't get reappointed, who's going to stand next to me then?
That's
No,
said,
I don't mean to be
very
flippant. John has done a real yeoman's job. This is one of his true passions. He deserves reappointment.
any other comments? We're grateful to have him do all the work that he does for the historical efforts for the town. And he's also president of the Bolton Historical Society, which is a private entity. Hearing no further comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing no opposed, it passes unanimously. At this time, we have, even joining us online, our poet laureate, and she is up for reappointment, Bessie Rena. I have to read to you an email that she sent, that she's been very honored to have been selected as the inaugural poet laureate for the town of Bolton. Unfortunately, the time of the appointment coincided with the beginning of COVID. This meant that there were very few programs I could present in person. Once restrictions lifted, I presented a poetry reading at the Heritage Farm, sponsored by the Land Trust, in which the Coventry poet John Stenisi appeared as my guest. The reading was well attended. I've also been involved in presenting the workshop Poetry as Memoir at the senior. The participants have asked me to continue this program, and I'll contact Carrie to see if their schedule will allow more meetings. This program has been fun and interesting, and I do hope to have the opportunity to present more poems and to continue to inspire participants to write their own memoirs. I have also presented several workshops and readings on Zoom, sponsored by different state agencies. These were open to the general public. Some of my poems, as well as a non-fiction article, have been accepted for publication recently. Should you decide to reappoint me, I would like to contact the library to see if there are programs we could do there which might interest our residents. One of them is titled When Poetry Happens and What to Do About It. I have presented this workshop at the Poynter Current Conference for Journalists, the Mark Twain House, Hartford Library, and other venues. It's fun, and people who think that poetry is, quote, boring are known to change their minds. The state of Connecticut has set guidelines for the appointment of poet laureate at the state and town levels. I'll be glad to send you a copy if you'd like more information about the requirements. I'll be glad to work with the town in selecting the next poet laureate. Thanks again for contacting me and honoring me with this appointment. Please contact me if you have any further information. Saludos, Bessie Rena, bessierena.com. At this time, I would accept a motion to reappoint Bessie Rena as our town poet laureate.
I'll be happy to do that. And for a person who is about as dumb as a rock when it comes to poetry, however, I am truly impressed with anyone who has the ability that woman has.
And a second, please. Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Choate. And thank you for the third, Michael. Any other further comments from the board? It was a new position when Ms. Rena accepted it. The first time, the state was pushing to have each town have a poet laureate, and we were blessed to have a published person step forward and say she would accept it. So at this time, I would, if there's no further comment, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. It passes unanimously. Congratulations, Bessie. At this time, we would like to move on then to the CCSWA, Central Connecticut State Waste Authority. And Jim, would you like to address that?
So we need to appoint at least one person, if not two, because the Capital Region Council of Governments is bringing this committee back to life based on the needs to deal with solid waste in central Connecticut. And since if on page 1 here, the town of Bolton is eligible to have 2 votes at meetings, I suggest that we pick 2 people to represent Bolton on the Central Connecticut Solid Waste Authority through the Capital Region Council of Governments. And if you weren't aware, the town does have an ordinance authorizing their participation in CSWA.
Iswa. Having said
That's what
that,
they call
if you don't wish me to appoint you,
it. Most of these
I would ask
meetings,
for
I
volunteers.
say, most of these meetings happen during the day. So I'm guessing that the board would like me to be one of those representatives. I'd be happy to do that on behalf of the board.
Do I have consensus that we have Jim as one of the members?
Yes.
That's Mr. DePietro, are you a yes also?
Yeah.
So we have a consensus. Thank you. Unanimous consensus. And then I need one other, Mr. Mora. You want to take on one more?
Another hat?
Yeah.
Head-
Your
Where
head's
are
too-
these meetings held?
DePietro wants to know where?
So typically, the Capital Region Council of Governments, if they're holding them in person, they're in Hartford, but most of their meetings have been virtual.
Is that something, Mr.
Right up
DePietro,
your line, Bob.
you would like to participate in?
Oh, yeah. That's my life.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Yep.
I would like to appoint Bob DePietro as the second member at this time, if I hear no objections.
No
Thank you very much,
objections.
Bob.
So
Do I need a motion?
We
you have
should do it.
Oh, Bob, here we go. Bob.
Motion to appoint Jim and Bob.
Wait, Adam Teller has the floor.
Mike beat him to it.
Oh, Michael, sorry, there's a little guy.
Okay. No problem. I just said, I make a motion, we appoint Jim and Bob to CSWA as our CSWA
And that is-
representatives.
And for Linda's purpose, that's Bob DePietro. Adam Teller?
Yes.
Can I put that on my resume?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Adam, would you like to second it? Did you second it, Adam? Before I twist your arm any further?
They'll be the kings of solid.
Yeah.
Hey, it's as good as being the king of sewers. So what can I tell you? You know, it's like one Bob on solid waste and one on sewer.
Thank you, Bob. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much for volunteering, Bob. I will call the roll and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. Thank you for the smiles as well. Under new business, NEAR contract, Jim?
You have a copy of it in front of you. The last couple of years, what's been happening, I think, since Josh was here and then beyond, is that we've just been dealing with these bills as they come bills. But most of them are predictable. We do testing of the lake at certain times of year. And NEAR has been, well, I think, some of you who have been on the board for a number of years will know that, NEAR with George Knockline has been the group that has really helped us navigate the issues with the lake, them along with, the Eastern Highlands Health District. And I thought, this board really is trying to be more transparent and show the public how they're spending the taxpayers' dollars. So I thought, the best way to do that was to actually ask them for a contract for the next fiscal year. And this would run from July 1st through the end of June next year. And this is only a couple of $100 more than we've paid over the last several years, paying them, one bill at a time. But these are all predictable things. These are the things that we do every year in order to control the health of the lake.
Questions for Jim?
I make a motion, we authorize Jim to enter into a contract with NEAR.
Thank you. And I need a second for his motion.
I'll second that. They've been a good company to work with. They've been fair with us right along the way, and I don't anticipate anything else but a good company to work with.
If I could ask that you consider amending your motion and your second, since this is over the $12,000. And there are, I think there's only one other group in the state that can provide this level of service.
Right.
I think you need to authorize the waiving of a bid process for the contract.
Michael, would you amend your motion to waive the
Yes.
bid process?
Yes, I will.
And I'll amend my second
Thank you.
to include that.
Any further discussion?
Is this consistent on an annual basis?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Fair amount of work. So, problem with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further comments, then I will call a question. All in favor, say aye for 14.
Aye.
And that was for $14,864 for those people that did not have that in front of you.
Thank you.
Will you be contacting our lake commissioner who's now
Yes.
been reappointed?
Yeah, we've been in constant communication.
And we have done 6B. Now we're going to move on to 7A.
We have actually an addition, which came to you late this afternoon, which would be 7C, and you would need to add this by motion of the board. And that is to consider acting on the letter that you received from Halloran and Sage.
Motion, we add it to the agenda.
I'll second that.
Second,
Thank you. We have a motion before us and seconded that we add 7C. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. So now we will move on to 7C. We'll move on to, let's do 7A, and we'll consider an act on the upgrade proposal for Chelsea Groton Bank. Jim?
Well, they responded to the questions that you asked them when they came to meet with you. And I remembered that Adam asked that the next time we're considering something that we have already received information on, we send the same information out again. So you did get that also. So you have the new information from Chelsea Groton that you requested, as well as the previous information that we talked about when they were present with you.
Make a motion, we accept their proposal.
There are multiple proposals before us.
The upgraded proposal.
So the two options.
There is no second before us, Michael, so just 1 minute. We're going to have some discussion before we get back to your motion, please.
Sounds
So
good.
Adam?
So the two options in the new proposal is the first option is to use a $5 million target balance for the steep account. And then that would be a 4% APR or for APY. And the other option in that proposal, well, there's a sub option to use an insured sweep account and get 3.75% annual percentage yield versus the second overall option, which is to only keep 3 million. In the, that would be 3.25%. And the difference, the 3/4 point difference in those two proposals on a $3 million balance is like $22,000 a year potentially. So to me, it's a no-brainer unless we would have serious trouble keeping 5 million in the account for the whole year. And even if per month, all we would do is incur some fees that month for whatever we use that month.
That's
We could
accurate.
just try to not use those services that month if we could avoid it.
Correct.
Do you think there, I mean, have you and Jill talked about whether there's going to be any serious problem in keeping 5 million in the account?
So, so the time when that can occur is at the end of a fiscal year when we don't pass a budget and we don't start collecting taxes.
One
You
more
know,
reason to pass the budget.
so, in general, it's not a problem. And I think, but I think you have to, if that's the one that you go with, I think you have to understand that there could be a 2 or 3 month period during any given year, depending on circumstances, that we would have to pay the fees.
So I'm just looking at the fees, right? Which are attached on the bottom. Okay, so monthly payments you'd have to pay, checks paid. If we're not collecting money, we're not sending out a whole lot of checks. If we're not
We,
deposited, we're not depositing.
one of the things that would happen is if we were in that situation, we would freeze all spending other than, what we have to do.
The Wi-Fi service would be price. AC initiations, we're not wiring in and out. We
We,
haven't passed the budget.
right, so we don't, yeah, we typically don't wire because it's a security concern,
Well, it's the ACH.
right? But the state, wires most of their payments to us through ACH.
So, I mean, I'm seeing that, and yeah, okay, there's things in there, but I'm thinking we could manage those bills, those expenses, if we're smart, in any month where we know it's coming. Either we try to slow down the payment and keep 5 million in for the date the target date, because it's only the average daily balance, right? Or we, don't use the services as much the month.
Yeah.
So if we can stay, if we're comfortable that of the year, say, but for 2 or 3 months at most, we're going to be above the number. I mean, it's a sort of a no-brainer for me. That we take the extra $20,000 because how many of those fees are going to be, and that's on 3 million, not on 5 million.
Right.
If you count the extra 2 million that we're taking,
It's
extra-
it's real money.
3/4, it's not bad. It's like 50 grand a year. That's a staff member. That's a half a mil. That's a mil. So for me, I'm glad we asked them for a better deal. We got a better deal.
Would this be considered a 1 year?
I don't know if there's a term on it.
So I think,
It just goes and change banks.
Yeah.
So change it.
so
Until we ask you for a different deal.
So one of the things I would suggest is that we make a motion I would entertain a motion and a second to accept this deal, and we could revisit.
We can look and see where we're at.
Review it annually or review
And
it
you, at some
every 2
future,
years, maybe.
future time, and we can see how it's performing for us.
And I would say, again, option 1 is the one to go with. And I'm not particularly concerned about the need for the insured FDIC insurance because I just don't think that's all that likely to be a problem. But if anybody else is at court, it's not.
Exactly.
It's about 15 grand a year on $5 million.
And if there's more in there, it's some serious dollars. If they get,
5 million, it's 15,000 a year
yeah, and
plus.
when you start off, the first 6 months of the year, we carry a pretty significant fund. So it's real money at a time when, anything we can do to help ease the financial issue is what we do.
Anytime you can squeeze a few bucks more out of your bank.
Hey,
You do it.
here.
Mr. Aramita, you started to make a motion. We asked you to hold off for a moment.
Yep.
Now that you've heard some of the discussion. Would you like to make a full motion?
Yes, I move that we do this option 1 and for a 1 year basis to see how we work with this bank.
would you consider changing that motion to allow just that the board would revisit it, that it's not a one-year so it's not, it doesn't sound like a contract?
All right. Yeah, however you want to word it so that we get an option to look at it again next year prior to approving it.
Would you consider the motion that we accept option 1 for Chelsea Bank and that the board review it after a year's time?
Yeah, that's fine. However you want to word it to make
Thank
it
you.
work is
And
fine.
a second? Adam seconds it. Any further discussion? Bob DiPietro? Bob Moore?
No.
And for clarification, that's the number one option at 4%.
That is,
That's it.
Michael accepts that's number 1 option.
Mhm.
He's nodding yes. Thank you for that, Mr. Rupert. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we're going to move on to the recommendation of the ad hoc committee.
Bob, that's you
Oh,
and Mike.
so
Mhm.
we had a brief discussion, and one of the things that I brought forward was to, prior to our next meeting, have a public forum to invite the residents at large to comment on what we're looking to propose. I have a proposed date, which would be Tuesday.
For Linda, just tell her what we're talking.
Oh, Linda, we're talking about the veterans, increasing the veterans benefits by increasing the assessment that they can,
It's the veterans exemption.
the veteran exemption, right?
Yep.
The exemption. And we had looked at, there'd been a proposal from our veterans group, and we had looked at it, and one of the things we were talking about was a 5-year step, bringing it up to a certain point. And there's obviously there's a cost to that
Mhm.
in loss of revenue. So my thought was we can project certainly a year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just estimating any increases we may have, present it to the public so that when we act on it, I'm sure our veterans would support it, but I also feel that our community would at large, but I feel it's important that we allow the community to come in and comment on this thing. This is, to me, it's a big deal. And I'm sort of conflicted because I'm a veteran, so, I'm doing this thing. I don't want to just do it thinking that it's for my benefit. It's not. If it goes forward, it's for the benefit of veterans. But it's important that if transparency, that's the term. And I think this just goes towards transparency. This board has worked hard to have that. And I think this is just another way of continuing that. So, Mike?
Yeah,
Michael,
I think, Bob makes a very good point. And I know it would make him feel better if the whole town buys into this as opposed to him, a veteran, voting for his own exemption. And I think it makes good sense to give him and the other people in town the option to weigh in on it. And you're right, Bob. I think it avoids any appearance of a conflict of interest by letting everybody have their say on it. And I think you're making a very good point.
Only if he abstains when he finally votes on it.
Okay.
That's easy enough to do.
there will be
Yes.
2 of us then that would be abstaining, and so the 3 of you would have to carry it.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that I think it's terrible tax policy, so I will never vote for it. I don't think it should exist at all as it is now. I think that veterans policy should be national because it's a national service. Whatever benefits and exemptions benefit should be nationally created and not dependent on where people live. Because otherwise, in a town like Hartford, there might be hundreds of veterans where the town can't afford to give them a break. But in a town like Bolton, maybe we can, or in a town like Greenwich, maybe we can. So that means a person in a wealthy town who might have a high income gets a tax break when a person in not a wealthy town or doesn't have a high for the exact same service. And we're also not asking, is the service honorable? How honorable was it? what was it? How long was it? Is a 2-year service equivalent to a 20-year service? I think it's terrible tax policy that's just randomly distributed. It's a giving away of benefit without rational purpose.
So what is,
I won't vote for it, so you can spend as much time as you want having public comment, but if we don't have 3 votes, it's a waste of time.
so one of the things we can look at is whether or not to abstain, because it is a tax policy that would affect all qualified veterans, not just 2 on the board.
I'm not going to tell you whether the 2 of you should vote or not.
No,
otherwise
I am just trying to describe that there are 306,
benefits from a specific tax exemption should vote on that.
there are 361 people, households in town that qualify. The discussion, just for clarification, the ad hoc committee discussed a 5-year possible phase-in, and in calculating what the possible cost could be to the town, it was about $12,000, $14,000 as an impact. So, and that could change and actually be reduced, because when we have reval on the mill rate and the mill rate comes down, then it is a lower amount. So at this time, I would ask, is there consensus that we hold a informational forum with the community members on the issue?
I have no problem with a forum too with the public.
Thank you. Mr. Aramita?
No problem whatsoever.
Mr. Moore, would you like to propose a date?
Yeah, I'd like to propose Tuesday, June 20th, 7 o'clock here.
Jim, does that meet in,
Does that work?
on the calendar?
I don't know. I'd have to check. If we can't hold it here, I'm sure there's a space available.
Okay.
So we won't say where, and you would say 7 o'clock, maybe your
I think
recommended?
recommended time. That's most meeting times there, people are,
Hmm.
and they could attend virtually.
So that is a proposal, and so we will move forward with an informational hearing. Thank you very much. We'll come back to that. Now we'll move on to the properties and facilities report. Jim, would you like to start it off?
Well, I think, the biggest thing to report with properties and facilities is that,
Madam Chair, weren't we going to talk about the attorney?
oh, right, we added
Oh,
7C.
Good catch.
We
I
did.
think it actually was supposed to be 6C, but that's it.
Was it 7C or 60?
We made it 7C.
Okay, so before us on 7C, we'll go back to that item. Thank you, Adam. We have,
And I have a big sticky on my page that reminds me.
I didn't get a sticky.
Yeah, all right.
Before, one of the things that we had for Mr. Teller, as a matter of fact, was a letter from Halloran Stage discussing the terms and what we would be getting for service. And you have it in your packet. You have it? Have you seen it?
Actually, it was on my email. I read it.
Yeah, the paper packets that were on the table, I believe Sue Ellen also added it to those.
Oh, she did.
Very good.
Yep.
I'd like to hear some comments on it. Dr. Petro, do you have any comment on it?
I would like to listen to what Adam has to say first.
Hot seat, Adam. Your name has been brought forward. Would you like the floor?
Sure. I don't think we've put a request for proposals or the issue of town council out to bid in many years, as far as I know. I think it ordinarily is something that's done by request for proposal on an ongoing basis, on a periodic basis. The only reason it's coming up now is because Attorney Barger switched firms and asked what to do with his files. So my feeling is that we should continue his engagement with his new firm, but at some point, and I'm not wedded to a particular point, whether it's a year, whether it's 2 years. You should go out to either request for proposal or bid or competitive bid.
Thank you. Mr. Aramita,
I agree with what Adam just said.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past. I don't disagree.
Then at this time, I would ask for a
It's a
motion.
double negative.
What kind of motion do we want, Jim? To
I move
Adam?
that we, accept the engagement letter based of Attorney Barger's and his firm's work as town council, subject to annual review by the Board of Selectmen with intention that at some point it would go up to request it.
And a second? Bob DiPietro seconds it. Further comment?
So, Mike,
Hearing no further comment, then I will call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it passes unanimously. Welcome back, Mr. Barker. Going back to properties and facilities, thank you, Adam, for bringing that back. I didn't have a sticky note.
Linda had her hand up too.
Hi, Linda.
No, she was gonna remind us not to forget that item.
Thank you, Linda.
He's right on top of
Going on to properties and facilities, Jim?
So I think there's a couple of things that we had discussed under properties and facilities. One of the ongoing things has been the care and maintenance of the cemeteries. And I have to tell you that this so far with town staff managing the care of the cemeteries has been complaint-free. In fact, I was pulled into a meeting the other day with some folks gathered, and there were some very positive sentiments shared. So I'd like to report that to the board and, publicly thank our buildings and grounds group for taking this on and adding a part-time employee, which is going to be less costly than the contractor and doing a better job. I'm really, really happy to report that. The other thing that we had discussed,
May I just continue that one?
sure,
I was on Memorial Day, two people came up to me and they were most complimentary on the condition of the cemetery and that they witnessed this new town employee going around and personally taking care of two different headstone areas that needed tidying up, that was straightening some things up that had fallen over, taking some care. So it was, I thought, a very positive moment in time to hear that, as well as this meeting in which there was another complimentary. And then I did have a guest with me, and we recently toured the cemeteries because he had an interest in cemeteries, and he was very impressed with the condition that they were in. I'm sorry, Jim, please continue.
I just ask a question about that.
Yes.
The cemetery fund that the town administers, how is that being used to defray those costs now?
so that employee is being paid directly from that account.
Okay, so we're sort of identifying that person as being paid by that account. Because
Correct.
that person is working at the cemetery. Great, perfect. That's exactly how it should be.
That's how we had paid the contractor as well.
And if we have,
Now that it's part of our budget, though,
Yeah, I hear you.
you
Right.
have to sort of be clear.
and if we have a 3-day period of rain and we decide to use him on another project, he'll be paid from the buildings and grounds budget. So that's exactly how it's happening.
Down the line, I don't want to have somebody saying, "Hey, wait, you're paying a town employee with cemetery."
Right.
Jim?
And the other thing that we had started to talk about last month, and you asked me to collect some more information, was about filling the manure pit at the Heritage Farm. I did have an opportunity to speak with the chair of the Heritage Farm Commission, and they've not yet even approached the Ansaldi family about helping with this. So that group is pretty busy right now with other things, so we are going to work together and try to address this in the future and may bring it back to the board for action. But we do recognize that, it's got a concrete bottom that would have to be dealt with. It's got concrete sides that would have to be dealt with. and that whatever material goes in there, if it's filled in at some point, would have to be compacted because their master plan includes putting a structure on that location at some point in the future. So that, right now, there's nothing for the board to consider or act on. I did collect the additional information as you requested.
Would you like to address the temporary building and that it's moving forward slowly? Or
I can, we were going to discuss it tomorrow, but yes, Pam has asked that I just give a brief comment on the temporary structure. We are working out some details with a foundation system for this temporary structure.
Thank you.
The engineer that's designed, who works for the company, Will Scott, has designed in what my opinion is an extraordinarily robust foundation system that is very significant cost, in excess of $40,000.
Could I ask, have you looked at the one they just put up temporarily at the East Hartford? It's actually at the fire department, but it's the temporary town clerk's office.
I have not, but I certainly can.
It's a building, temporary building. It's I don't know, 60 by 40.
Familiar?
Maybe look at what they did.
Sure.
use for foundation or ask their building people, because maybe we could see.
Bob DiPietro?
Yeah, Jim, is there a possibility with such a solid foundation that this temporary building will go on longer than originally anticipated?
Well, I mean, that would be up to the townspeople and the board. Right now, as the charter sits, the Board of Selectmen could only enter into a 3-year contract. But we've talked about, the financial aspects of this and borrowing money. And I know that we have a supporter of a new town hall here in the audience with us, who also happens to be a retired engineer, that probably would agree that, 26 2x2 concrete piers with rebar in them are probably an overkill for a building of this size. I have some ideas that I've put out there, which are, essentially augering 2-foot diameter holes, filling them and compacting them with crushed stone. That is a proven method of support for years and years and years. The other thing is, I've talked to a couple of concrete contractors who could put us a full foundation in for around $12,000. And then we could fill that with stone and compact it. And then they could, put their, concrete blocks on that. So I think there are some opportunities for thinking outside the box and coming up with other ways. And then the other option is just to apply to the state of Connecticut for a modification of the building code that says it's a temporary building. We don't want to put a frost protected foundation under it. We'll re-level it and adjust it every spring after the spring thaw. So, those I think are the options that I'm leaning toward, but, certainly if there's an option there in East Hartford, I'll try to get a little more information.
The property
That was true there. That's only there until they finish the interior renovations.
Yeah.
So it can't be a long-term thing.
Sure.
Probably much less.
Well, and if it's a 90-day or 200, they may have just not put a frost protected foundation.
The Properties and Facilities Committee is meeting tomorrow morning. If anyone would like to join us, you're more than welcome. Anything further, Jim?
Nope, that's all I have.
Thank you. There's no action required.
Madam First Selectman,
Yes, sir.
I have to leave the meeting at this time. I apologize, but I have a commitment I have to take care of.
Thank you.
Have a good
Good night,
evening,
sir.
everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Take care.
We're now moving on to 8, and that's Michael Aramita has left the meeting. 8B, the 23 budget report. Jim?
So I don't think there's anything here that you haven't seen before. There's nothing new in the budget reports. We've been, and we're actually going to talk about next on the agenda with the budget transfers. There have been some areas in the budget like the assessor's office with, a budget that was prepared, not planning to have the shared services, with the waste collection services. We had an active contract that ended, I believe it was November last year. And we had to take a stab at what we thought was going to be the rates. So, we need to move some money into those accounts. And that is what's next on our agenda to discuss.
Is there any questions for Jim on the budget report?
I just want to know why so much money, 23,000 for waste. Seems like that keeps happening too often.
The rates went up tremendously, Bob. We went from a rate, I believe, of about $85 a ton to well over $100 a ton. And we negotiated a rate that is better than most other towns have gotten.
And Jim was able to get it reduced with the help of Attorney Barger by $35,000
It was, about around $35,000.
in a reduction in the cost. So we saved some money there. And I can report that in the budget that was passed yesterday by the General Assembly, the governor's proposal to add a $5 charge per ton on waste did not pass. So it did not get included into the budget as an unfunded or a state mandate. So moving on then to.
But we also have a contract, Bob, for next year. And we know on average how many tons of municipal solid waste we dispose of annually. So we will be very close to that number for next year.
Okay.
At this time we have, does that answer your question, Bob?
It does. It does.
Thank you. Budget transfers. Before you is a packet of budget transfers. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. Is there any question for Jim?
I think it's important to note that these are out of budget transfers. So they have to be acted on by the Board of Selectmen and then move to the Board of Finance for them to act on at their special meeting tomorrow evening. I believe it is already on their agenda. And the hope is that we can get these taken care of so that we can, get these accounts in the black and continue to pay our bills in a timely fashion. Would you like me to just read them into the record?
Yes, please.
So $200 from inland wetlands to Board of Finance to cover under budgeted payroll account. And we're going to find a couple of those because of the increase in the board clerk pay. $53 from building and land use budget to the assessor's budget to cover a shortage in the advertising account. $23,000 in building and land use for refuse services to cover under budgeted account for tipping fees. $825 from building and land use to the assessor's office to cover under budgeted training account. $44,400 from building and land use to assessor for under budgeted payroll. $536 from building and land use to the assessor's budget to cover under budgeted account in dues and fees. $5,300 from the administration budget to from the administrative budget to refuse services to cover that under budgeted account for refuse removal. And that is it.
So I would accept the motion to accept those budget.
I move we approve the budget transfers as presented.
And please, would you add to move them forward to the Board of Finance?
And move them forward to the Board of Finance.
Thank you. And I need a second.
Yes, second.
Bob Morris seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye, it passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. An AP report.
There is no AP report.
Thank you.
I thought I missed something.
No, it didn't get crossed off the agenda. Sorry.
The first selectmen's report, I received two pieces of correspondence I just wanted to share with the board. One is from the Department of Transportation, and there is a notice of telephone hearing on Route 6 at 255 Hop River Road. Halo Transportation has asked, they would like to, pursuant to sections 13B-103 and 4-177 through 182 of the Connecticut General Statutes, Halo Transportation LLC seeks authorization to operate 3 motor vehicles having a passenger seating capacity of less than 11 adults in general livery service between all points in Connecticut from a headquarters in Bolton. So there is a notice of hearing, and the hearing will be June 21st, 2023 at 10 a.m. If there's further interest, I will leave this in the selectman's office, and anyone can call into that hearing if there is an interest for that.
The airport.
That may be.
Could
Yeah.
be, right?
That'd be nice.
And that is the area of the old Whittam's Nursery. The next piece of information we got was from FEMA and Department of Homeland Security, and that there is going to be on June 20th at 9 a.m. There's going to be an update. The effective flood insurance rate maps, called FIRM, for the town of Bolton, Talon County, were issued July 11th, 2011. And the community received a communication in 2016 informing you that the flood hazard mapping for the town of Bolton, Connecticut will continue under the FEMA risk mapping assessment and planning program due to flood mapping improvements initiated by Risk Map program. The U.S. Geological Survey, who is serving as FEMA's mapping partner, has updated the engineering analysis on several river reaches in your community. The USGS would like to invite your community to review the work maps. So if that's something of interest to anyone on the board, you're more than welcome. And it would be, again, June 20th at 9 a.m. and it would be a Zoom meeting. So I'll leave those two with the Selectman's office if anyone has an interest in those. And that's all I have on my report. At this time then, if there are no other questions, I'll move on to number 10, Administrator's Report. Jim?
So just a couple of things, and then, you've all got the written report. I certainly will be happy to take any questions on this or anything else you might have. I'm really happy to say that our new highway foreman started on Monday. His name is Sean Bailey. He's very happy to be with us. He is originally from Bolton and is really happy to be back working for the town of Bolton. So I think we found a good match, and I know I'm really happy to have him on board, as is many members of his team. So that is extraordinary. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is I did speak with Ray Hardy, who had come before the board a while back regarding Squaw Cave, and the board had asked me to write a letter, which we did. Since then, Ray has had conversations with Sarah Sportman and Shippo, and right now what their recommendation is to designate it as a historic place. And what I said to Ray is I would, talk to the board about it. And I thought that the board, generally gave their support, and with your consent, I will continue to support him on trying to help him get Squaw Cave designated as a historic place so they can continue to be protected.
Is there any conversation on that particular item? Anybody want to add anything to it or a question? Do I have consensus then from the 4 members that are still here this evening to have Jim continue that dialogue?
Yes, absolutely.
We have a consensus. Thank you, Jim.
Those, I think, were for me, a couple of the big things. Does anybody have any questions about anything that was in my report?
Yes, just picking up Pam's note about the correspondence from FEMA. Has anybody at the town looked at that engineering analysis on the region?
We haven't seen them yet. They haven't shared them. I do believe that Patrice and Rich will be attending the meeting.
What does CS mean?
I knew you were going to ask me, and I tried to remember it. I can remember part of it. It's actually right up there on the wall. Connecticut Development Land Use Planning Certification. We've already had one. We've already had one successful certification, which was up for renewal, and so we decided to move forward and apply for it again. It's a bit of a process, but I think it's something that really shows. I know that one of the things that Selectman Teller worked very hard on when he was on planning and zoning is to really show that the town of Bolton really does want new business, and they're working hard to try to help new businesses to come into town. And these are the kinds of things that we can do to show that, we take those things seriously and that we are using best practices in order to accomplish those goals.
Thank you. The
You're
other
welcome.
question I had, Jim, was where's the dry hydrant going to be?
So the dry hydrant we've talked about is over on Hop River Road between Munson's and Bolton Collision. And we now have a plan for it. Our team is going to be cutting some trees there. We are going to go to the Wetlands Commission here in the month of July. And although no permits are required, it's really good to just let them know that we're doing it and let them rule on the fact that no permits are required for the installation of a dry hydrant. The other thing that we are working on is trying to source a gate so that we can gate that off. And there's a lot of nefarious activities that happen down there behind Munson's. Our buildings and grounds team has to go down there periodically and clean up the messes that are down there. And we feel that if we're able to source a gate for that we can put a gate and use some of the boulders that we have to remove and, create a barrier so that people aren't going back there in an area where they shouldn't be.
Who owns the land?
That is on town property now.
Hmm.
It's one of the reasons that we've waited on this particular dry hydrant is until we had ownership of it. It was part of the land that was given back to the town from the state of Connecticut as part of the Greenway.
Okay. Good work.
Thank you.
Very good. Are there any further questions on the administrator's report? Hearing none. And Jim, is there anything under other?
I have nothing under other unless anybody else does. And don't forget, you've got 2 blue banners on the bottom of your page.
So before we adjourn this evening, we'd like to set up the next AP meeting to be scheduled on Tuesday, June 20th at 2023, and another one on Tuesday, July 5, 2023. And that's because we have the 4th of July in the midst of all this. And
But you would normally be doing the AP on July 4th at your regular meeting, but I'm guessing
You've got.
I'll be away, and I'm guessing you guys don't want to be here.
Yeah, but you've got Tuesday. It is Wednesday. July
It's
5th
Wednesday,
is a
correct.
Wednesday.
That's correct.
It's just
thank you for
Is
the
the
question.
first selectman going to bring her leftover fireworks?
Yes.
Mhm.
My house. Kidding. My
You're gonna-
dog loves fireworks, not.
Yeah, mine either.
all right.
Well, on Tuesday, the 20th, I'm not available in the afternoon. You're proposing the forum for at 7 at night.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Wanna
could
do it
do
before it?
as early as possible, 9 o'clock, 8:30.
You want to do earlier? Do you want to do it 6:30 before the public forum?
I'd be okay with 6:30 for the public forum.
Does that help you out with your
Is
account?
it easier that, which works? better?
Meeting in West Hartford at 2 that afternoon, which will go till 4, but I'll be back by 6:30. So if you want to do it at 6:30, that's fine. Better for me. Doing it at 9.
Oh, yeah, no.
As long as we don't put a bunch of stuff on the AP meeting and stick to AP, we can get it done pretty quickly.
So 6:30 on the 20th, it's fine.
In July.
Now, July, I'm on vacation, so I don't care.
So am I. I'll be away.
I can do it remotely on the 5th, anytime. As long as it doesn't interfere with dinner.
What a guy, he's gonna go off his vacation for this, so.
He did last year for something. I can't remember what.
I-
He was in his shorts.
I
I
do
remember.
things remotely from vacation all the time.
I'm around that Wednesday.
All right, let's start with
Whole divorce in a hammock once at Vermont.
too much information. Let's have to go to minutes.
Excuse me.
Back,
I showed them the view of the lake.
um,
Oh.
we'll just hold the meeting up there. So June 20th then, let's talk about that at 6:30 PM. Is everybody able to make it at 6:30 and we'll get, could you please
No, no.
notify Mike Aramita
Yes.
on 6:30? And on Wednesday, the 5th. What time, Mr. Maury, would you like to?
What's easier for people, evening or morning? If it's gonna be
Well,
around.
we don't want to interfere with Adam's dinner plans.
No, he's
so-
gone.
Or Bob DePietro's fleet.
I just,
We can.
Let Adam have his vacation. Adam, just write it off, so Bob, what?
I can get up at 3 a.m.
That is not a proposal.
Yeah, maybe you can, but you're gonna be by yourself. Was 9 o'clock in the morning work?
How about 9:30?
9:30?
Is 9:30, Bob, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
9:30.
2 times up.
I can do a remote. We won't be picking
Remote.
blueberries that day, so,
How do you know
because I make sure I won't be doing.
that? Well, I thought that would give you time to come back.
Oh,
Okay. All right, 9:30 AM on July 5th. Is there anything else, Mr.
I have nothing else.
Rupert?
Move the adjourn.
second.
We have a motion and a second, and all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye, it passes
Aye.
unanimously. Thank you, Linda, and thank you all that stayed on this evening, and thank you to the Community Voice Channel and all that listened in. Thank you to our
Thank
guests.
you, Jim.
Good night, Bob.
Right.